What's the most physically painful thing you've ever experienced in your lifetime? I'm pre-hip replacement, just waiting until I'm cleared for the actual surgery. It's bone on bone at the moment, there's no cartilage left in the joint. I've never felt pain like this in my entire life. And I've had a ton of broken bones and multiple surgeries. This pain is a deep primal aching pain that never lets up. I had a steroid injection into the joint a couple days ago, and there was so much inflammation that almost 30 milliliters of joint fluid shot out of the needle that they used before they could inject the steroid in there. I felt like a human deflating balloon. The relief was amazing. Not even kidding, one night I laid back on my bed, somehow managed to land perfectly on an Xbox controller with the joystick getting wedged under my shoulder blade. I swear I couldn't move for like 30 minutes, it hurt to breathe, I thought I was gonna die. Eventually I was able to sit up, move. It was like the pain was just so fucking bad for the first part of it, but then the next day my whole right arm was in significant pain with my shoulder back. I could barely use my arm for the next few days. I'm fine now, but holy moly, I have no idea how this caused me so much pain. When I yawn and I accidentally cramp my neck muscles. Anybody else ever experienced this? It's awful. I'll suddenly like jerk, and it's such a jarring motion and people are like, what the hell's wrong with you? And it's just so awkward to explain. And I get this often. Edit. Another honorable mention: calf cramps and being woken up at night to just lay in agony while they run their course. Fortunately this was mostly only a thing in my teens to early 20s and it's since gone away. Mostly, unless I had a very strenuous leg day at the gym and I haven't eaten enough potassium. Recovery from laminectomy for spinal cord stimulator implant in 1/10/2023. First 3 weeks post-op, the pain was unbearably brutal. Getting up and down from sitting, in and out of bed were damn near nightmarish, and that's what the painkillers and muscle relaxers I'd been prescribed. The muscle pain was 100 times worse than the pain I was being treated for. Now I'm getting 80-90 relief from what's being treated, but almost a year to the day, the back muscles on either side of the incision still give me grief now and then, especially after exertion. Arc high. I didn't get it from arc welding but from being exposed to an extremely powerful UV light. I didn't even know it at the time, but about 6 hours later the pain in my eyes was maddening. It felt like I had shards of glass under my eyelids. Even though light became too bright to look at and looking at my phone screen to get a taxi, I might as well have been staring into the sun. I was honestly ready to claw my own eyes out, not least because I, nor anyone at the hospital knew what was wrong and I thought I was going blind, waking up from my hysterectomy and really needing a shot of morphine. Fortunately they not only gave me the good drugs quickly, but rigged up my patient-controlled analgesia soon afterwards. Very close second: chronic anal fissures. I'd head to the bathroom and tell my husband, "Be right back, I have to go ruin my day." Finally gave up on less effective treatments and had a lateral sphincterotomy, which fixed it for good. I was pretty sore for a few days, but post-surgery was nowhere near as bad as the fissure itself. I was an addict about a decade ago and got an abscess on my wrist which got to the point where I couldn't move my hand, so I went to the hospital for it. Well, the doctor cut the abscess open and drained it, then proceeded to stuff a bunch of gauze in the open hole with tweezers and stitch it back together with the gauze inside. All of this without any anesthetic or anything whatsoever for the pain. Same thing when I went back a few weeks later and they pulled the gauze out, but that part was relieving at least. A broken rib and grade 4 liver laceration from falling on the end of a broken mesquite branch. First time I'd ever been truly blinded by sudden pain. Close second was in the ICU when they had to aspirate some of the fluid floating around my abdomen to make sure it wasn't the bile leaking from my liver. The local anesthetic did nothing, so you can imagine how that went when the doctor shoved a big ass needle in my back between my ribs. I think I taught the nurses some new swear word combos that day. Kidney stones. Woke up in the middle of the night in severe pain. Crawled the 20 feet to the bathroom in about an hour. Keep passing out and throwing up. I was uninsured at the time. Vicious lower back pain for 4 days. Couldn't pee or poop. Finally started to piss out chunks of the stones on day 3. Passed 19 of those jagged fuckers. Finally, poop, on day 4. So much was backed up I had to flush 3 times. Drained from the ordeal I slept for about 36 hours. Miserably intense pain. When I had a lumpectomy for breast cancer, they injected some radioactive something into my nipple so they could trace the route and find the sentinel lymph node. From there they would remove it and a few others to see if the cancer had spread. Having the needle in whatever they injected was truly the most painful thing I have ever experienced. I had a death grip on the side of the gurney, tears streaming down my face, and gritting my teeth in an attempt not to scream. Internal bleeding in my liver. Morphine wasn't even helping. It ended up being a 4-liter hematoma when they were able to finally remove it. It was the worst pain I've ever experienced, my only true 10 on the pain scale, and landed me 2 weeks in the hospital with 1 in the ICU, 3 surgeries, 2 blood transfusions, and some PTSD. But none of the surgeries or anything after the fact compared to the pain I was in when I first got to the hospital. I can't recommend it. Breast augmentation. I ran out of the good pain meds after a week and a half and they refused to prescribe me anything else. Tylenol didn't do shit. Every morning when I woke up and managed to wiggle myself out of bed, it felt like gravity was burning, stabbing, and branding holes in my chest. I had also found out 3 days after my surgery that my boyfriend that offered to take care of me had cheated the month my cousin overdosed, and that emotional pain sucked too. Kidney stones 4 weeks after an open abdominal hysterectomy. I thought my stitches had ripped and that I was dying. I called my husband at work and he came and got me to the ER. I had to wait in the ER for hours and I was snot crying the whole time. They needed a urine sample and it looked exactly like flat coke and literally couldn't believe that it came out of me. I'm very tough when it comes to pain and it is 9.9. My spinal headache was a 10/10. It wasn't a breaking of my leg. It was the setting of my broken leg. Even on 4 fentanyl, just before they began, a nurse said to me, "Just remember, it's okay to scream." Then they did it. I'm sure the color drained from my face. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't experience anything but pain. Then, the nurse leaned in and said, "You should scream now." All the better she did. She probably prevented me from going into full-on shock. When I was 8, we were playing fetch in the school hallway, ending up in the bathroom stalls. The kid I chased ran around a corner into a stall. I grabbed the corner to swing around, too. Got my little finger between the door hinges, metal coated. Kid slams the door shut. In agony I scream and try to pull open the door. He thinks I still try to get to him and slams it shut again. My finger was moose. Took ages to heal. Natural childbirth. Water broke at my parents' house and we were 30 minutes away from the hospital and our son started crowning. All I could do was vomit out the window in sheer pain and fear. I was only visiting them and was at the same hospital 2 hours earlier, and they told me I was in an active labor, gave me a shot of morphine for what they assumed Braxton Hicks contractions, when in all reality I was in labor. I had precancerous cells removed from my cervix. I got a tubal ligation done that day as well. The pain out the Percocet helping for 2 days after was off the chart, especially if I tried to roll to my other side in between doses. I'm glad that I had those surgeries, cause I didn't want the possibility of developing cervical cancer, nor did I want any more babies, cause my son was late teens when I had it done. 1. Ruptured ovarian cyst. 2. Period cramps. 3. Migraines. For some reason people are very sympathetic towards ingrown toenails that become infected and require removal, but I hit my toe a few times and the pain was brief. I must have just gotten lucky, but the removal wasn't painful either. The needle to numb it felt akin to a bee sting, and it was more unpleasant to feel like my toe was falling off. Pilonidal cyst, fully infected because I was too scared to go to the doctor. You think your healthcare bill is bad? I was covered by insurance, but you'd die if you saw the price of 2 surgeries, a traumatic wound care visit that granted me my first panic attack, and multiple painful visits to the surgeon. But hey, it's worth it to be able to plant ass again without wanting to cry and scream in pain. To preface, I was induced 3 times and was technically in hard labor for 72 hours. That was nothing compared to my ex throwing me across the bedroom and jumping on my back more than a few times. Couldn't move for a few hours, walked with a cane for days. 5 years later still suffer. Don't want pity or sympathy, but when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. You can't fix them. Pre-COVID, kidney stones. Post-COVID, COVID migraines. I've suffered migraines since puberty, but compared to the ones I got from COVID, they were nothing. Give me a kidney stone any day of the week. The COVID migraines felt as though my skull had been cleaved in two. 2 trips to the ER, morphine given for the second one, after I puked and peed myself all night. 12 days straight in bed. I think I'd have to say when an elephant in Thailand got angry and hit me on the thigh with a palm frond it was eating that was about 3-4 inches in diameter. I was certain my femur shattered. It hurt so much I couldn't even scream. The next morning my left thigh was twice the size and bruised to the bone, purple, black and yellow colored. Could hardly walk for the rest of the vacation. Bull stepped on my balls when I was 17. There was no damage to the jewels, but it ripped the skin open. I carried them out of the rodeo arena and then fainted from the pain. I came back to reality and then fainted from the pain. Over and over. I couldn't get pain relief because I had driven there alone, and it took my family a while to drive to the hospital in Tulsa. It was a bad day. Ruptured ovarian cyst. Had to be rushed to the ER. Content warning for sexual assault below. My second choice would be when I was raped. He tore the inside of my vagina and part of my labia. I was okay, no surgery or anything needed, but it was so intense and bleed everywhere. It burned every time I peed or sat down wrong. I couldn't wear underwear without pain for almost a week. Erythromelalgia, aka man on fire syndrome. It is a form of a paroxysmal extreme pain disorder. During a flare-up, which occurs several times a day, the affected body part feels like it is on fire. Imagine the searing burning pain of walking barefoot on a hot pool deck in summer. But it can happen to your feet, hands, knees, cheeks, ears, thighs, or other random body parts. Knee replacement surgery. I was given a spinal block and then put to sleep, but it turns out the spinal block never took effect. It was in the recovery room that everyone involved found out that opioid pain medication not only didn't help me, it made me throw up constantly, so I had no pain relief at all. The pain almost made me pass out. It made for a brutally bleak recovery.